folks that joined. So hi, Althea, Shadow, Cynthia, Ailey. Welcome as well. I didn't say hi to you all. Feel free to use the chat and if you're willing to be interactive. I know people aren't necessarily able to go on camera, but if you're able to participate through the chat, that would be awesome. And Kaveri, how was your day today?
It was good, pretty busy. Just looking forward to the last month of the year.
Yes.
How about yours?
Today was good. It was mostly a working day. I teach a class 12:30 to 1:30, but it's just online, so that's fun, I guess.
Yeah.
Towards the end of the year, when this is exam season for them, then I have less people who join, but it is what it is.
Yeah. So I think keeping in mind the time constraints, we can start the workshop now. So over to you, Sangeeta.
Thank you so much, Kaveri. So yeah, welcome to today's another workshop, everyone. So this workshop is about LinkedIn, what it is not, and why it's important. And I would like to welcome everyone and also to a special guest for tonight, Mr. Luki Danukarjanto. So I just want to introduce him first. Mr. Luki is a career coach who found his purpose helping others find theirs. He's a former management consultant with Deloitte, undergrad campus recruiting and talent lead. He's the author of Swike, Stuff I Wish I Knew Earlier, How to Unlock Your Career Potential, and host a podcast of the same name. He's also an educator as well as a mentor for various youth entrepreneurship and newcomer organizations around the GTA. He's also a dad and a lifelong learner. And now I will give the floor to Luki to share his insight with us.
Thanks so much, Sangeeta. Thanks so much, Kaveri and Francine and everybody else for attending this session. So my name is Luki Danukarjanto. Luki's fine. Don't worry about the last name. I'm from Indonesia. Most people are curious about the last name. And the funny story about it is when my dad was born, he was actually a Chan. So if you can see that I'm ancestrally Chinese. So we were born in that tradition. But due to some civil unrest in the country, we had to change our last name or else. And my dad got a little bit creative and he changed it to Danukarjanto. And if any of you are ever in Indonesia and need a resourceful worker, apparently you can ask for a Danukarjanto and they might get you one. So that's apparently what it means. But I was born there and I moved to Canada when I was very young. I ended up doing a degree in computer science because my dad worked at IBM. Silicon Valley.com was growing. When I graduated, the dot-com bubble burst and it blew up, right? So similar to now, if folks heard about like all the tech layoffs and stuff like that, even worse than that. It's kind of like if you were in the financial services around 2008, 2009, it's kind of the same thing, or maybe in hospitality at the start of COVID. That's kind of how the world in tech was during that time. But I ended up getting a job at Deloitte. I started there as a coder based on a reference. I had a friend whose brother was looking for a coder developer. He helped me get an interview and I got the job. As luck would have it, I spent over 12 years there and I grew up into the firm, moving more from the technical side to the business side. And then I had what I call my quarter career crisis, where I spent too much time on a plane. I was on a plane Monday, coming back Thursday, and then I was watching my kids grow up kind of like this, right? FaceTime at the time. Oh, look, he's learning to walk, talk, roll. Not exactly the type of dad that I wanted to be. And usually if I do a session in person, I get a couple of like pity ahs because they realize that when you're away from your kids and your family, it's a pretty challenging time to be. So after a lot of soul searching, self-reflecting, and talking to mentors, I found that coaching is what I wanted to do, what I thought that I was called to do. And most people around me actually felt that it was pretty apt and pretty appropriate for me to do so. So that was in 2015 when I started. And now I work with most post-secondary institutes. I do a lot of teaching around the city, working with companies and different not-for-profits and individuals to help them find their purpose. One of my goals is to elevate education in that I want to bring soft skills education into the curriculum. So imagine having lessons in like effective communication, time management, emotional intelligence, building relationships, learning to learn. Like, why aren't those courses? Why couldn't we be taught to do that? Then we can be taught like math, science, and arithmetic and financial modeling or whatever it is that people do nowadays. But those are the things that I would love to bring into the curriculum. And that's essentially what I've been doing in the past little while. As Sangeeta mentioned, I wrote a couple of books, Stuff I Wish I Knew Earlier, which kind of sums me up, right? I wish this is what we were learning a little bit younger so that we can almost what I call like upgrade your problems, right? Don't deal with the little problems that you had, deal with the bigger problems that are a little bit more challenging out there. So I'm always honored to be invited to a session where I'm neither a mother or a daughter, but I do have a mother. I don't have a daughter. I have two boys, and I do have a whole bunch of sisters, though. I have three sisters and a brother as well. So we come from a fairly large family, and my parents have a whole bunch of grandkids, and there's about 5 girls in the bunch too, right? And obviously my sisters are now mothers as well. So I do relate very much into that that side of the gender equation as well. So that's I guess a little bit about me, and just to talk and hone in a little bit on the LinkedIn side. I started using it a bunch of years ago, and I was what I call a LinkedIn snob. Before, I would not connect with people. I was too good for that, and I would wait for people to connect me. But needless to say, I only had a very small following. I didn't even have 100 connections at the time because I guess I wasn't that popular of a person. Then I realized, well, why? Why can't I just leverage this tool for what it was meant to do, to connect and meet people and introduce? And then since then, now I have, I don't know, probably 10,000 plus connections, over 12,000 followers, that sort of thing. And I use it on a regular basis to connect and reconnect with folks, right? So a lot of the things that I share today, I've either learned the hard way, sometimes through trial and error, and sometimes through mentors and other folks that have kind of shared their wisdom and knowledge with me. And I generally practice it on a regular basis. So what I'd love to do is to learn a little bit more about you, right? So there aren't too many of us. So if you don't mind typing a little bit about what are you up to these days? Are you a student? Are you working? Are you doing something else in between? And if you want to share maybe a dream job, right, or a dream achievement, what is something that you would love to have done and accomplished before you retire or kind of be done in this world? And then ideally, if you can give me a number, like out of 10, what would you rate your knowledge of LinkedIn? So I have a lot of material to cover and I want to know which areas to focus. Should I do more kind of the beginner stuff, more the intermediate, or more the advanced stuff? And if there's anything specific that you'd love to get out of the session. So I'll give folks a minute just to kind of type up a little bit. And if you also want to share like where you're joining us from, if you're joining us from a different part of the world other than Toronto, then let me know. So we have a therapist there. That's awesome. We have someone working at CIBC. Oh, we have a 7, which is not too bad. Someone from Toronto. Oh, and we're putting links in there as well so that we can kind of connect. And feel free, if you already have your LinkedIn, to put things in there. So, help women. Yeah, it's a little too fast. All right, so it sounds like that folks are sharing there. So 3, okay, 7s. There's some 8s in there. So okay, so maybe I'll be able to realign. I'll spend a little bit on the basics because there are a couple of beginners there as well, and maybe I'll focus a little bit more on the more advanced stuff as we get into things. So, and my promise to you by the end of the session is that you'll at least pick one new item from LinkedIn, if not 12 different pieces of knowledge and nuggets for you to be able to take amongst yourself. So does that work with everybody? And if you want to either nod if you're on video or say okay or good or something on the chat, that would be great. Okay, got some thumbs up there. Perfect. All right. So what we'll cover, we'll do a little bit of what it is, what it isn't, how to use it to win. And I'll give you a bunch of tips and tricks in there as well. So LinkedIn 101, right? It was acquired by Microsoft. It's a great news source. It has a feed with shares a lot of information about business and technology. I actually like to call it a networking event that's happening 24/7, 365. Right. So if you've ever been to a networking event in person, there might be 20 people, there might be 100 people in that room, but LinkedIn is a giant virtual room of what, 700 million people there. Now, the main difference between in-person and online is that LinkedIn, unfortunately, has a very big ignore button that can be quite easy to access, which is unfortunate. But for the most part, most people are pretty good where they do accept connections and they engage in conversations. It's definitely readily used for job seeking, and it's a recruiting platform as well. So it's a professional platform. So it's definitely used there. They acquired lynda.com, Lynda, and it now has LinkedIn Learning. So you can do a whole bunch of certifications in there as well. And connections networking, as I mentioned. Also, it has become a personal and a professional branding platform, right? So it's one where a lot of people are using it as a social media one where they're kind of elevating their professional status out there, right? But at the end of the day, it is a professional business platform, right? It's something that folks want to keep in mind, which counters to what it isn't. It's not Facebook, it's not Instagram, it's not Twitter, right? And it's definitely not a dating site. I've actually heard from a bunch of folks that people try to pick up people and say, hey, you look kind of cute. Would you mind going out? It's like, well, this is a professional site. This is for business professionals on the business side to connect, right? So just make sure that you keep that where it is, right? And Facebook and Instagram, we do share pictures, but they're not generally of a personal nature, right? You can be a little bit vulnerable and share your personal story, but it's probably more of the 10% or 20% of what you share versus the majority of what you do, right? Because people do appreciate when you are a bit personal with them, but at the same time, if that's all you share, that's better left for one of these other sites, right? I have found that some people are actually using it as the pseudo Twitter, where they might just have a quick ask and say, hey, does anybody know like a software tool or book or resource or something that can do this as a teeny tiny tweet? And people do respond, right? So I don't know if that's going to be a growing trend, but so that I might adjust that a little bit in the future. But so far, it's none of these sites. Now, why it's important is that, like I mentioned, it's a personal branding platform. And whether you like it or not, you have an online brand. Right? And sometimes your brand is the person who's not on LinkedIn, or the person who doesn't post, or the person who doesn't interact online and doesn't have a picture and things like that, right? That could be your brand. And if you don't like the word brand, then essentially you can call it your reputation, right? It's what you're known for, or sometimes what you want to be known for, right? LinkedIn right now is kind of the de facto professional branding site, right? So just like there are personal ones, the personal ones seem to have evolved, right? Does anybody have a MySpace account? Way back in the day? Well, MySpace obviously was trumped by Facebook, but do people still use Facebook? Because most people use Instagram. Do people use still Instagram? They use like Snapchat, and then now the youngins are using like TikToks and things like that or whatever. So it seems like on that side it's evolved, but LinkedIn seems to have a bit of staying power. There really hasn't been a professional networking platform that has had the pervasiveness as LinkedIn has so far, right? But who knows? Just like back in the day, as I mentioned with MySpace, everybody was on that time on that platform, until they weren't, and they were on another one. So who knows? I know there are other companies that are trying to encroach on LinkedIn's territory, but so far they're staying. Now that doesn't mean that they will for the next 5 years or 10 years. So you still have to be mindful to cultivate that online presence. But right now, from a professional perspective, LinkedIn is what you have, right? And much of the North American culture use that. So a lot of people who are on the business world are the ones going into LinkedIn and taking a look at what you're doing in your business space. Sorry, in the professional space. So what I would have you consider is, what do you want to use LinkedIn for, right? And if you want to also type in the chat any of these ones that kind of resonate, are you using it to kind of get a job, to meet and stay connected with people, to find and stay current with different opportunities, Maybe you just want to share your knowledge and experience, or maybe you're there to build a personal brand. So maybe if you can type in 1, 2, 3, or 4, or 5, or maybe if you want to write a 6 of your own version, then that would be great. Just to let me know what are your goals with LinkedIn, because the way that you use LinkedIn is slightly different in each case. 1, 2, and 3. All right. Can have a wait for a couple more responses. Updated. Yep. Number 2. Great. So 2 and 3, 2 and 3. All right. So there's a bit of a combination there. Oh, and there's someone with looking for a 5. So that's great. All right. So I'll try to allocate and cater that. Oh, no, I'm just reading it wrong. That's a 3. Oh, no, that is a 5. That's a different one. All right. So something to consider. People leverage LinkedIn, a lot of it for its search functionality. Now, people are trying to find them based on people they want to hire, people that they want to work with, or people that are in different industries that they're hoping to connect with, right? And when they search, they actually see your picture, headline, and what have you. So what I'll do is quickly go into LinkedIn and kind of show you what it looks like. And hopefully all of you have seen the interface already. Can everybody see my screen? It's now LinkedIn. All right. So if you were to search for someone, I saw someone was a project manager. So if we do something like project manager, if I was searching for someone, LinkedIn allows you to search for a whole bunch of different things. And I have a screen on this side. So if I glance over this way, just be mindful that I'm looking at the screen. You can filter based on the different things, so jobs, services, posts, and whatever. Generally, what I find very helpful is this people side, right? So it starts restricting to the people's and their profiles, right? And if you think about it, there's a lot of people right here. So just for that small search alone, there's 17 million results that I have, right? And then what you can also do is you can search it and say, well, maybe I want to just filter based on Toronto, right? And then that restricts it. So it's not 17 million, it's now 137,000. That's still a huge amount of people as well. And then you can further filter by a whole bunch of other things based on school, based on company, based on whatever else that is, right? So there's a lot of people on LinkedIn there and doing a lot of different things. For those, I'm going to spend a few minutes on profile, but if folks want me to kind of accelerate it because they know all this stuff, then just kind of mention it in the chat. But I do see that there was a couple of beginners here, so I want to make sure that I share a little bit on the profile. So when you search, if you look at it, you see your picture, your name, your title, they call this the headline, your location, what you're currently doing, and then common connection. So this is basically what they see for everybody, right? And if you're a recruiter and you have to deal with 137,000 people, then you're looking for any excuse to kind of pick one person versus the other. Because if you had to go top down to any one of these, that's just a lot of people. So a couple of important things is you notice that pretty much everyone nowadays has a picture, right? A couple people don't. And I know some recruiters, they were explicitly actually skip people who do not have pictures, right? The analogy that I usually use is imagine that you're all in the market for a phone, right? It doesn't matter if you're like team iPhone or team Android or team whatever, like you're on the market for a phone. So the newest one comes out and like the specs and the megapixels and the size and stuff sound great. Even the price point is good, a good amount of memory and all that sort of stuff. But this phone doesn't have a picture. Would you buy that phone? Now, a phone is a phone. They all kind of look the same, right? You almost couldn't even tell the difference if you were to see one a little bit separately. But what you might want to think is if you're getting that phone, does this phone have confidence issues? Is this phone wanted by the government or something? So if you don't have a picture, then you're kind of in that camp, right? Because the convention is that everybody has a picture. And if you don't, there must be something a little bit different and odd about that, right? So just something to consider. And I'm happy that if anybody has any questions or any thoughts, hopefully I can get some of the folks to moderate for me and just let me know if there are any questions. But that's one thing why you want to have a picture. And ideally it's of yourself, right? It's not of your cat. Ideally it's not of you on vacation, right? It is a professional picture. But it has to be professional looking, not necessarily taken by a professional. What I generally recommend against is do not put your passport photo, right? Your passport photo is usually probably the scariest photo you have of yourself because you're not allowed to smile on that photo. And I highly encourage you to smile. So in any picture that you have, to smile. Because if you think about it, would you rather hire this guy or this guy? Right? Nothing's changed except the smile, right? So a slight smile will make you a little bit more approachable and someone that I want to work with, right? So something as simple as that can be helpful. The next thing is your tagline, this little thing here, sometimes called your headline as well. It's something about you. So if you notice, a lot of these say project manager, product manager, project manager, project manager, project manager. If I was a recruiter looking at this, I'd get bored pretty fast, right? And I'm hoping I can find one that's a little bit more, ooh, I help companies become more efficient and effective. Now, if I had 100 pages of these, I'm definitely going to click on this, guys. Right? So if you can add a little bit more spice, a little bit more personality into your profile, then it's better. So it automatically defaults to your last title based on where you work. But if you can spice it up, that would be really helpful for someone to want to connect with you, right? And it gives you a little bit more information about them as well versus something just like project manager. So those are the basic things that you can kind of control on the searching. And then on the profile, there's more things. So I'll use my profile as a reference. So this is my background. Oh, one other thing is there's this little background photo right here, right? So right now I have it as my company's logo, but otherwise it's defaulted as kind of a gray and blue type of series of shapes in there. I highly recommend you change it. And someplace, if you go to something like pexels.com or unsplash.com, so these are royalty-free, high-resolution photos, right? So any of these ones, and if you were to search for something like project management, right? And then grab one of these. Maybe you want to scroll down a little bit because most people will pick the first one that's up there. So scroll down a little bit. Which one speaks project management? People huddled around there. Maybe you want like some sort of spreadsheet or things like that. Team retro, maybe someone typing, someone collaborating, this and that. So maybe it's this one. Maybe it's a different one here, but grab one that you like. And just by adding a simple picture here, it can significantly upgrade your profile. And the great thing is you can change it tomorrow. If you don't like it, change it tomorrow, next week, next month, you can do it. Just like you kind of change your clothes, you can change it whenever you see fit, right? The next big section that I would suggest on the profile is your about section, right? So you can think of this as your elevator pitch, your tell me about yourself question in an interview, or your cover letter on your resume, right? A different way that I would suggest is like, imagine that your future boss, your future donor or collaborator or partner or whatever it is, whoever else that you're hoping to connect with on the platform, imagine that they're reading your profile. What do you want to tell them? Right? Have your audience in mind. With any good communication, you always want to have your audience in mind and tell them specifically what you can do, the value you have. Maybe share an example of the different things you can have, right? So mine is quite purposeful and very specific to a certain niche, but you can find someone who's doing something similar to you and you can borrow theirs, as in copy and make it your own, right? So if you find there, this is one where in school, plagiarism isn't good. In the real world, you get a little bit more value by having by following other people as well. So that's kind of a next big section. The other one is the experience. So your experience becomes kind of your online resume, right? It becomes the activities that you've done. If you're looking for a job, this is super important because in order for people to find you, then you have to have things in there. One thing that's useful, if for those of you who want to follow along on their profile, if you scroll up, there's this section that's under here that says analytics, private to you. And what you can do is click on this option that says search appearances. So if you click on that, then what happens here is you get a new criteria. And I don't have the premium package, so you don't even need that in order to do that. But what I want you to take a look at is this: keywords you were found for, right? And for those of you who know anything about like marketing or search engine optimization, oops, I shouldn't have clicked into that. Then what you want to do is start adjusting and adding words into your experience, into your about, into your headline to make more of these appear. So coach, I'm fine if this appears. Career coach, I'm great with that. Job consultant, yeah, that's not bad. Network administrator, this is one that I'm a little bit confused of. This is new. I haven't seen this one appear in search results. So if I wanted to, and I don't want to be searched for this, I would probably find the references on my profile to like network administrator. Yeah, so it doesn't seem to find it. Maybe there's somewhere here in one of the other experiences that I have. There, I would probably see and remove these. Now, these are from my high school days, way back when. So probably not, or my university. So probably not very relevant to my future career path. So if I wanted to, if I really wanted to manage this, I could delete it. And then the search results would change. So that's something that I encourage folks to take a look at to see, are people finding you in the way that you expect them to? So I'm just going to pause here for a minute. And any questions on the profile so far, or anything there that I'm talking about? Okay, looks like no questions. The rest. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Francie.
I was saying, oh, good. This is really useful.
Oh, good. Okay. So, all right. So those were the major sections that I would have you encouraged to go through. And in the interest of time, because I want to talk a little bit of some other things, I want to chat about. I'll just briefly skim. So there's things like the skills section where if you actually look at a job on LinkedIn, so I could go into one of those. If I'll use my project manager example again. But if you actually look at them, they'll have things like skills here, right? So if you are in the job search, you can click on this and say, these are the skills that they have. Now, if you think about it, you might have already done onboarding. You might have already have experience with the PMO or project teams, and you could add it onto them. And then suddenly now I'm 7 out of 7, right? So more of the results will come in. If I look at another job, there might be different ones. So this one is more kind of ITIL, like technology focused, Jira, Confluence, and things like that. Well, this one, they need someone, or they would prefer someone who speaks Spanish, right? So the more of these that you fit, the more higher that you will appear on any of the results if they use LinkedIn. Now, if you're applying to their own portal, you might not go to the top, but it's something worth considering that when you also when they search for you, then you'll appear higher on their search results if you have more of these. So this is a different sort of search engine optimization that you want to do if you want to be using the tool for a job search, right? And then it'll also help if other people are searching for you for other contexts and purposes as well, right? So this skill section can be quite important for you. The recommendations, it was just people get to see who knows who. It can be a little bit gamified because sometimes you just ask your friends, hey, can you give me a recommendation and I'll give you one. So people kind of recommend each other. Doesn't really have too much influence on the functionality. There are things like projects or interests and things like that. It just changes like the searchability, and then also the interest here will change what appears on your feed. So all the different news and stuff like that might be coming up. Volunteering can be helpful as well. Like the more connections that you have, the better. And one thing that you might want to also consider is having a featured section. So if you have something like a portfolio or any particular like post or something or a website that you're really proud of, then you could put it here and then it becomes easily accessible for folks. So that's kind of a high level on the profile side. So I'll skip back into the presentation and kind of briefly go through what I talked about. We talked about the picture, you want to have one. The headline, I mentioned about having a little bit more personality into it. your background photo using something like Pexels or Unsplash. You can search for royalty-free images on Google and do that as well, and just change it as you feel like it. I mentioned about the About section. If you find a profile of interest, someone that has something that you really like, and just borrow it, right, and make it your own, right? Experience I mentioned. This becomes your online general resume, and if you don't have it on your profile, then it won't come up in searches. I mean, that's just how technology works, right? Even though there is AI and machine learning there, it's not that great where it can actually read into your brain as well. And then one small thing that I would have you suggest is there is a way to update your profile URL. So if you notice mine is /in/LukiDanu. Some of you have like a dash and then a whole bunch of numbers and letters on it. If you have that, then what you can do is you can scroll up to your profile. So you go to view profile, and then it'll get you to this screen. You click on this edit public profile and URL. So if you open that up, hit this little pencil box, and then you delete that other stuff. So that stuff was added by LinkedIn to make sure that it's unique. If you have a fairly common name, you might have to add a qualifier because someone else might have already taken yours. So you might have to add like a TO or like a PM marketing. Try not to put your birth date or things like that in there. You can just do a 1, 2, 3 and increment it if you want as well. But it shows a little bit of care that you took on your profile just because you even know that that's there. And I know a lot of boot camps or career centers, they're suggesting this because it signifies to the recruiter that you sort of know what you're doing, right? And then the sanity check that you want to do is to check, oh, did we have someone that wanted to say something? Omu, did you want to say something? Oh, no. All right. What you want to do is a sanity check is if you were to follow it top down, does it make sense, right? So that background image, ideally that's something related to the job that you want to do. Your headline, do those things relate? Does the about section make sense? Does the experience kind of fit in? For any of you who are career switchers, that's where the opportunity is to kind of align everything, where if you have your tagline that references the areas that you want to go into, and then a foundation in your past career. The about section can tell the story of how you went from your old career to your new career. And then that will follow on with your experience and show the progression where it might not naturally make sense why you went from one place to another, but then it'll give you some feedback in there as well. So that's just something that you want to make sure that your profile kind of follows each other there. All right, so that's a good chunk of information or profile. Does anybody have any questions? Otherwise, does anybody want to have their profile reviewed? Right, I'll spend maybe a minute or two. If you want to pop your URL, that's the linkedin.com/in/whatever it is. If you want to paste that into the chat, then I'll probably take 1 or 2 of them to review and see if folks are open to that. So I offer that to folks, and by pasting it in the chat, you agree that I'll be putting it on the screen so that folks can review, and hopefully someone is willing and able to do it, and then we can provide some feedback. Is anybody willing and able and interested in having their profile reviewed? Everybody's thinking.
Gladly.
Perfect. Right, so I'm going to copy that. Let's see if I can open it. Oh, you had, if you want to paste yours in there, maybe we'll get to yours next. Uh-oh. So I'm just trying to move my window and it doesn't want to go through there. All right, so I got Pexels here. All right, so folks, I would love for you to provide some feedback. Now, all of you are LinkedIn profile experts, or at least aspiring ones. What would you suggest for the profile? Now, this is an interesting one because it seems like it's a casual one, but because she's the owner of a photography studio, then it makes a lot more sense. Anybody have any thoughts or any feedback that they want to share? And the way that I ask folks to provide feedback is you have to say something nice before you say something constructive. right? So we're here to grow, but just wanted folks to do that. So who's willing to share? And Omu, is that your hand because you want to share or because you want your profile reviewed? Okay.
Sorry, wanted my profile review, but since I have my mic on, hi everybody, hi everyone. See, I love the fact that when I open it, I see fashion first, as well as see quality image. So that shows that you are photographer, and the first word I say owner photographer, which is wonderful as well.
Yeah, I think that's great. Anything that you would suggest as something constructive?
For me, I'm still learning about being from you today. I'm still learning to be a professional. But maybe instead of like putting a graphic designer, maybe have a bar that separates them. Maybe that's my point.
Yeah. And keep in mind that all of this are just suggestions. So even anything that I suggest, you don't have to follow it. It's really up to you, right? So yeah, I think it's great. It looks nice and clean. I definitely see that the photography elements in there. Nirvana Studio. So I would probably talk a little bit more about yourself than the studio, right? So this is more of a personal profile. This is different than a company page. So what you may want to do is actually create a LinkedIn company page. So let's see if I can get mine back in there. So there's a difference between, a personal page. So this is my personal page of me as an individual. And then I have a company page. So this is me as my company, right? So they look slightly different. They have slightly different functionality, but this is my company page. So what you may want to do is create one page for you and then another page for Studio Nirvani, right? So that's just one suggestion that I might have you think about. What else? Like I mentioned, I like smiles. So this is more like a little bit of a smirk, right? But it's really up to you because it is a little bit more kind of stylized and artistic. So that's up to you. I'm a big advocate of smiling. Owner and photographer at studio. So what I would have you consider is what sort of value does the Studio Nirvani provide, right? So in the hashtags, you talk about headshot photography, portrait photo, editorial photography. So maybe something like owner photography at Nirvani Studio, who makes all of their clients and products look really good or something like that. Well, maybe not the really good part, something a little bit more creative than that would be something that I would have you consider changing. The featured is great. My guess is that there's probably a portfolio in here, right? Yeah, perfect. So you have a lot of the samples of your work there. The other part, it's fashion here. Do you have any kind of specific corporate interests, right? So would you work with like brands and take pictures of their clothing and stuff, or is it pure like model shots and things like that? You might want to consider like the type of photography you do and how it could relate in a professional context. So Christine, did you have a comment that you want to share? Your hand was up.
Yeah. As you mentioned, it's good to have a personal and then a business page. So what you call page. So what should be on the personal and what should be on the business? Because even the personal one, as you mentioned earlier, is like 20% of your personal life, but it's pretty like a professional page, right? So what kind of messages I should give out?
Yeah, there might be a large overlap for them, but I mean, let's pretend that if this was your professional page, then this would be focused more on like the services. Where did my professional? This is my corporate page, right? So it usually has, if I view it as a member, you'd want things like about the company, different posts there, right? Any jobs or people or events or videos that you have. So these are different things that that you would have for your profile, right? For your company's profile. For your own profile, this would be more capabilities and things like that. Why would people be searching for you? So this tends to have, if you think of like bullet points on the resume, right? What sort of things? So it'll be, I don't know, managing complex photo shoots, or preparing catalogs of like product line photos, or if it's purely on pictures, is do you do custom, what do you call it? Like, I don't know exactly what it's called, but like the B-roll, or like the staged photo shots for companies. That might be what sort of photography that you do. So it all depends on what you do. Or it could be like, we can come in and do headshots for all your employees, create like a gallery photo book for your clients to see like all of their different like agents and representatives that your company work for. Or you can upgrade the website, the about section with the team. That could be different things that you might want to include there, right? So these would be the things that you provide, but in the context of like the professional nature of LinkedIn, right? So that's kind of the difference. Does that make sense? So again, there's a huge overlap between the two, but this could also be more like the bullet points. So if we actually go down here, a lot of this stuff is in there. Like, you wouldn't necessarily put like edits photos and consult with clients. I guess you could put that on your company page as well. That's something to do. Now, it would be different because she also has this graphic design that she does on the side, right? It's probably not related, but somewhat overlapping with the photography stuff, right? So there would be a slightly different thing because she's more than just the photography. She could do other things as well, right? And yeah, does that answer your question, Christine? Okay, great. Awesome. So Nirvani, does that give you some things to take a look at? Overall, I think it looks fairly straightforward. You just want to think about what kind of professional brand. So if someone were to find you on LinkedIn, what would you want them to take away from it? So would you want them to be able to take headshots, or is it a certain type of company? Because I think you mentioned, or someone mentioned fashion, right? Is it with fashion companies? You could also even suggest it here, like helping fashion companies, retailers or whatever, bring out the beauty in their products or something like that, or their models or their designs or something like that. That would be something that I might have you consider changing. Sounds good. And Omu, did you want to post your profile there? Did I see it? Yes, it's here. Perfect. So we'll just do this one quickly. So we have a realtor. So what do folks think about Omu's profile? And again, you have to say something nice before you say something constructive.
In terms of branding, I just want to say that I like the picture behind the cover image. I think it's very telling of what Omu is about. And she has a creator mode on. I see her title as well says she's into real estate and change making. And maybe in terms of branding, I'll see if it's I don't know if it's the color, but I don't really have anything bad to say, to be quite honest. I think I like her profile, and she has 4,000 followers, so yeah, she must be doing something right.
And it's never bad. It's always like, how can we help each other grow and improve, right? So it's not a matter of being good or bad. It's just we want to help each other. If we can level up a little bit, that's great. Yeah, I would.
She doesn't have an about me. I just noticed.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna suggest. Yeah. So overall, I mean, I think it's a good, like, as kind of a very static kind of image, great picture, and you definitely can tell that she's a real estate agent. But a couple of things that I would have you think about is like, why are you using LinkedIn and for what purpose? So are you using it to get more real estate clients, or more on the project? Are you project management and business development? Are you looking for roles on that side? It looks like the only thing that you're doing is real estate. So you would probably have the about section tell a story of one client who you help find the perfect home, right? And the great service that you provided, like staging their house, and how you help them through either a difficult or an easy close or whatever it is. Something that you do would be very, very helpful. Again, more things down here on the experience. If you could share different things that people would look for a real estate agent would be great. Then yeah, you can probably tell a story in the about of how your experience as a project manager, business development, all of that sort of stuff would help you as that. Because I mean, I would love my real estate agent to be a project manager. That way they know exactly like how to keep things on time, on budget, setting expectations and things like that. That would be a lot of good things that they would have. And then one thing that we didn't go through, I didn't go through with Narvani's, which I probably should have, but is the activity. So the other thing is the engagement that you want to look at is, are you following and supporting things that are relevant to your brand, right? So if you think of her as real estate, I mean, is this real estate? Maybe. It's just something that she found is interesting, right? So you might want to take a look at different real estate hashtags or things like that, right? Because it seems to be, oh, here's 10 commandments of buying a home. Oh, I get that's your own post, which is fine. So that's great. You're posting your own, which is great. Yeah, so the more that you can kind of start focusing a little bit more on the interactions with your thing. There you go, another vacant home tax credit, which is great. This is a question to ask. Oh, so maybe it was just the last few that were there. So this starts to get a lot more real estate and it makes more sense to me. So cool. That's what the basics for me. That would just be more interactions, putting yourself out there more in the real estate side, jumping in on people who are having conversations about that. So I don't see any kind of hashtags that you're talking about. So if you can post and connect on more of those, then that would be helpful. And that's LinkedIn has it there, so you can interact a little bit more. So Omu, does that give you some good feedback for you to work on?
Yeah, it does. Thank you so much, everyone. That's wonderful.
And thanks everyone for your help in providing some feedback as well. Okay, so I only have 10 minutes left and I had a lot more content because I wasn't sure which ones I would kind of breeze through or which ones that I would go through, but I'll kind of briefly mention. Oh, cuckoo. Sorry about that. All right. So one of the big powers of LinkedIn is it is a networking platform, right? So you can connect with anybody there. A couple of foundations that I'll have you think about is ideally, if you're using it to get a job, you want to network not to get a job, right? Seems very counterintuitive, but if you think of a network interaction, at the end of the other side is a person. Right? Did anybody get a call around 7 o'clock for someone to do some duct cleaning or some new whatever, right? What do you typically do on that side? You usually hang up, right? Because they're trying to sell you on something, right? Because nobody wants to be a transaction. Nobody wants to be used, right? So don't do that to other people. When you connect with someone, connect with them because they are an interesting person, not because they so happen to work at a company that you want to join, right? Ask them about their profile. And really the answer to every how to network question is to care, right? So if you keep that in the back of your head, in the back of your mind, then it will be really helpful, right? And I'm reminded of a quote and I'd like to share that where you can have anything you want if you help others get what they want, right? Now, the trick is to figure out what they want, because sometimes it's not exactly what you think. And if you think networking as farming instead of hunting, then you'll be better off, right? Because hunters, basically you get the elephant, the whale, the bear, the fish, the whatever, and it's gone. You plant, then in a couple of weeks, oh, here's some fruit. And then again, the next season, and again, and again, and again, it keeps on reaping rewards, right? So think about it in that way, where you're investing in your future, not just transaction taken away. In LinkedIn, there's functionality to send a connection request, and you always want to send one. Always, when you hit connect, there'll be a pop-up on the desktop to add a note. You always want to send a note. In the mobile app, there's an actual other option where you hit the more button, and then there'll be an option to send personalized connection requests. And if you don't, if you don't send one, it's the in real life equivalent of going up to someone at a networking event, tapping on the shoulder and going, did anybody feel a little bit awkward at that point? Because if someone did that, you'd be like, yes, and how can I help you? I don't even know you, and you haven't told me anything about you. Should I accept? Or are you spammer? Are you trying to sell me duck cleaning or something like that? It's kind of that equivalent. Give them some context. Why do you want to connect? Why are you curious there, right? And in any case, connect anyways. Wayne Gretzky has a quote that I like. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take, right? And I follow on with, the answer is already no, right? If you have a fear of rejection, you're actually already rejected. You're already not having coffee with that person. You're already not reaching out to them. You're already not doing that, whatever it is with that person. So the worst that can happen is whatever it is right now. But the best thing that can happen is they say yes, right? And then engage with the platform, and then you'll get connected with more folks, right? A couple things in terms of bad practices, where if you want to know if you're networking correctly, take what you're doing and put it in the context of dating. And you'll find that a lot of people on LinkedIn, they're looking for one-night stands, right? They want the sale, they want the whatever, right? Because they're going straight to the request before they actually build a relationship with someone, right? And that my hope is not all of you are doing that, but these are some messages that were taken directly from my feed or directly from my messages somewhere, and I'll have you read it. But basically, it doesn't sound like they were caring much because they were too busy trying to kind of seal the deal, so to speak, right? And if you want to connect, I encourage all of you to kind of paste your connection requests. What I wanted to share is a little bit how to connect beyond a few degrees. So if you want to connect with me, I'm going to breeze through some of the material. What I encourage all of you to do is to warm up your network, right? So if you have 20, 50, 100 connections, when was the last time you messaged any of them? Because otherwise, what's the point of having 100 connections if you haven't talked to any of them within the past 5 or 6 months? So what I would encourage you to do is warm them up, message them. And it could be something that's like, hi, I know we haven't connected for 4 years, but how are you doing? Right? You can rekindle it at any stage in time. You could even say, hi, can you remind me where we met? Because I actually can't remember. And then hopefully that rekindles the relationship as well. I want to kind of get to, let's see, focus on connection requests. 3 degrees. So in LinkedIn, there are these concept of degrees of connection, right? First degree are people you're connected with. Second degree are people they are connected with. So if you follow this thing, this is you. This is your first degrees, the people you're connected with. The second degrees are whoever they're connected with. And third is everyone beyond that, right? And if you actually see LinkedIn, and if I search for, let's search for project manager again. Then there'll be a lot of second degrees. And let me see if I can find any third degrees. Yeah, LinkedIn might not. All right, so this gentleman here, Kirlo, I don't know anybody in common with him, but let's pretend that I want to connect with them. LinkedIn says message is locked. And basically, if I click on it, it says, I need to pay and get the premium service, right? Now, what you can do is if you notice this little button called more, click on that. This is a very helpful button in general. And what you can do is find the connect. And you connect. Sometimes they have this pop-up where you know them. So maybe you connect, you add a note. This is the note that I mentioned. Hi, Creolio, how are you doing? And enter something about why you want to connect with them, right? So before you would have done that, hopefully you reviewed and said, oh, I'm a project manager as well. I yeah, used to work at McDonald's before, that sort of thing. So anything that's in common could be useful and helpful in order to connect with them, right? So that's one thing that I want to share. And in the last few minutes, I have a whole bunch of other content, which I'll unfortunately not be able to get to. But before we depart, I guess, what was the most memorable part of this session? Is there any kind of tip or trick that we would have? And if folks are available to stay for a few more minutes, I'm happy to answer any other more advanced questions on LinkedIn there. So if you want to type it in the chat, or if you want to unmute yourself, then let me know what is one of the most memorable takeaways that you had from the session. And hopefully folks are willing to share. Analytics and warming up your contacts, yeah. The idea of a sanity check, that's great, yeah. And for those that want to connect with me, I think I pasted my profile just there. So if you want to connect, one thing that I probably will get into, there is a difference between connecting and following. So because I have a fairly large connection base, the automatic default will be for you to follow me, right? And if you follow me, you just get the posts and stuff that I have. But if you connect with me, then you can actually message me without having to pay. And then you get access to my connections. Because remember, once you get connected with me, then all of my connections become your second level connections, right? So if you actually connect with me, you'll find that your search results produce more results just because there'll be more people that connect with them as well. So that's something to consider. But is there anything else that folks wanted to, oops, going the wrong way, wanted to chat about for LinkedIn? Or is there any questions that folks want to chat about on LinkedIn? Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. And if you're interested, I have focusinspire.com/links, and then a whole bunch of stuff like YouTube or books or whatever would be available there. Advanced question, are I help statements getting stale? Is there a better way to capture this? They are, I do find that they are, because too many people, it's getting a little bit saturated. I haven't necessarily found a way to do it, because at the end of the day, those headlines are a very reactive way to do things. So the way that I suggest is, it actually doesn't matter what that headline is, as long as the value for the person is there. It's, are you proactively reaching out to people? I found that that's much better, because when you start either engaging in posts and starting a conversation, and it could be something as simple as going to a comment and saying, oh, I really like what you said about this, or asking a question about the post, then that person's followers, that person's connections also see them as well, right? And then they might say like, oh, who's this Luki guy that keeps on commenting on people that I like, and I keep seeing him? Maybe I will connect with them. Maybe I will follow them. So the goal is for that outreach to eventually pay dividends, so that it becomes inbound as well. Right. So Shadow, I'm not sure if, well, assuming that I'm pronouncing your name right to begin with, but yeah, maybe I'll have to get back to you, because I haven't really thought of what might be better than an I helped, because I myself use them. But you're right. I am noticing that they are becoming a little bit stale. So I'll try to do some research and investigate on what might be helpful for that side. Any other questions on LinkedIn or anything as well?
Luki?
Yeah.
Hi, this is Umu. Can you repeat again the phrase that you mentioned on how to reconnect with people? You say it can be as simple as something. That was a really powerful message, short but powerful.
Well, I think this session is being recorded, because I actually don't remember exactly what I said, but it was probably something of the nature. So if you actually knew that person before, then just share some sort of memory. So it could be like, hi Umu, how's it going? How's everything with your family, your parents, your dog at the beach house, or whatever you did with your classmates, or however you know that person? Anything that you remember on them would be great, right? The other ones, if you don't really know them, something as simple as like, oh, could you remind me where we may have met? My memory is failing me right now. It could be something like that. Or it could be just giving them an update. Hey Umu, how are you doing? How is your winter? Any big plans for the holidays? I was able to, well, I unfortunately caught COVID or something like that, or I was a friend there, I went on vacation, or share something about you and then ask for an update for them. So that might be some ways that I'd have you reconnect. I'm pretty sure I didn't say those previously, but I don't recall exactly what I said at that point. But you can hopefully watch the recording. Would the recording be made available to the other folks?
Yes, he will be.
Yeah. So
And
you
I
could
just
probably
have to go ahead.
go ahead. No, I was going to say you could just probably skip to that part and see if you can find it, and then let me know, because I would like to know what I said as well.
And I would just like to really thank you. I don't know if there's any more questions, but I really commend you on the fact that you lead by example. Your treasure trove of information, and the way we connected, the way we even stayed in touch, is because you applied everything you actually advised us on tonight. So yeah, you're very inspiring, Luki. I just have to say that. And I'm grateful to be part of your network.
Thank you so much for the kind words, Francine. I appreciate that. I owe you coffee, I guess, or lunch. But I appreciate that.
Oh, no. Thank
you
you.
so much, Luki, for providing us time tonight. And this has been a wonderful session. You have shared your insight, tips, and tricks, and that is going to be really helpful for us, because LinkedIn is a great tool, great platform to meet networking. So thank you so much for that. And I request every one of you to please fill up the exit survey, as this is going to be really helpful for us to improve further. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining tonight, and have a wonderful night. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Luki. Thank you for your time. And it was a lovely evening learning more about LinkedIn.
Thank you, Kaveri. Thanks, Sangeeta. Thank you, Francine, and to the M2D team for inviting me. So I really appreciate that, especially, again, not being a mother or a daughter. I appreciate that. I must have done something right to be invited to be able to speak to a wonderful group like this. So I appreciate that. And feel free to connect if I can be of help. And any specific questions, I'm happy to respond appropriately. So yeah, hopefully I get a whole bunch of new connection requests today.
For sure.
Thank you, everyone, for joining.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Take care. Bye.